Despite being very much alive, my girlfriend took me on a hike through the mountains to show me not one, but two of my own graves. It all started when I began noticing little red threads appearing on my fingertips. I was out for coffee with my girlfriend at a cozy little cafe on the main street of our quaint mountain town. It was a normal day, like any other. We were hitting late autumn when the leaves start to tan and redden, and the air gets that biting, chilly afterburn that makes a hot coffee hit in just the right way. And as I picked up my cup mid-sentence, I saw them. Little red threads stuck to my fingertips. My girlfriend asked if I was okay. I suppose she'd picked up on my quizzical squint. "Yeah," I said. "Just have some red string on me." She gave a, "Huh." And when she asked where they might have come from, I told her the truth. I had absolutely no idea. I hadn't touched anything red. The chairs and table were made of treated iron. The cup was white. My clothes, blue jeans and a black t-shirt. Puzzled but unconcerned, I wiped the tiny strands off. They fell off quite easily, and continued on with my day. But when we got home that night, shopping bags in hand, I noticed that they'd returned. I set our groceries down in our apartment kitchen and just kind of stared at my fingers like they were misbehaving. And again she noticed and said, "You probably have something in your pockets." Naturally, I emptied them out, and out came my wallet, phone, keys, and a lint ball, but nothing at all that could produce red strings. She and I just shrugged it off and packed the food away before climbing into bed for the night. And in bed, as we were cuddled up, I just couldn't pay attention to the TV. Instead, I just kind of stared blankly at the wall, thinking about the red fibers. My girlfriend can practically read my mind at this point, and with a squeeze, she muttered sleepily, "Maybe you're just coming apart at the seams." Now, she likes to joke around, and I get that. But that comment just felt really weird. I'm a bit of an anxious person, so I chalked it up to overthinking and settled in to sleep. That night was a little rough. Weird dreams. I think her comment got to me because I dreamt I had a red thread coming off of my right palm. It was all fragmented. I dreamt it leaked from my hand, spooled out to a dark void. It didn't hurt, at least. I don't remember it hurting. I just remember unwinding little by little until everything I was had been pulled out along that red thread. Suffice it to say, I felt pretty weird waking up the next morning. Oh, and the threads were there again, stuck on my fingertips and my palms now. After that dream, I could feel this pang of eerie discomfort stab at me. I launched out of bed and stumbled groggily to the bathroom to wash off the threads, which again came off with ease. At breakfast that morning, she could tell something was really wrong with me, I guess just from the slouch in my posture. So she took my hand and gave it a squeeze and said, "You know, there's a little trail we haven't taken up the mountains yet. I hear it goes to a small lake. Want to go? Might make you feel better." As I let go of her hand, I noticed some red threads from my palm had rubbed off onto her. She noticed too. Wiped them off, stood, gave me that beautiful toothy smile she has, as if it just didn't matter. "When?" I asked. "Whenever. Just let me know," came her response, sweet as a songbird. Then she fluttered away, leaving me to stare at the crimson fibers on my palms. I figured I'd do my due diligence. Maybe it was some kind of medical emergency, though I had no idea what could make me secrete red string. Still, I typed my symptom into Google, and the results produced absolutely nothing of relevance to my dismay. I finished up at the breakfast nook and came into the living room, where my girlfriend seemed to have been expecting me, with this almost, giddy, eager smile, wider and more excited than usual. "You're that excited to go hiking?" I asked. And she giggled and chirped out, "I'm just really excited to show you this place. It's really neat. I think it'll help take your mind of things." My eyebrow twitched up. "You've been before?" "When?" She just shrugged and said, Oh, a while ago. I told her to let me think about it, and that I was going to go get some air. On the way out the door, I paused and turned back to her. Quite uncomfortably, I asked for the name of the lake, and she told me, cheerfully, its odd, almost Nordic name. When I asked where it was, she seemed to dodge the question and said, "Oh, it's a little trail outside of town." Baffled and disquieted, I thanked her and headed out. I just kind of walked around that day. Something about her demeanor had shifted. This much was obvious. Usually she was quiet, demure, and settled. This energetic glee radiating from her. I'd hardly seen it before. So I did the only thing I could think to do and pulled out my phone to search for the lake. Once more, I had to brush off ever-multiplying crimson fibers from my sticky palms. Before I even got to open my phone, I noticed that the threads were creeping up my arms. I spat out a panicked "shit" and shook them off as violently as my heart did beat. Breathing heavily, I whipped my phone up and punched into the name Lake Affinligger. And I got a lake in Norway. We live in Colorado. There was no Lake Affinligger in Colorado. I went back home around mid-afternoon, only to find her getting our hiking items ready. Our poles, water, compasses, packs, all of it was in the car and ready to go. "Whoa," I said. "It's a little late to go hiking, don't you think?" And she gave me this starry-eyed look. It was inky and animalistic. "No, I think it's the perfect time. Come on, I'll show you where the trail is." I was stunned, honestly. And yet I could just feel that no would not be an adequate answer here. I stared at her, jaw agape, as she crawled into the driver's seat. I wanted to leave, to get the hell out of whatever this was, but I felt frozen, stuck in the moment. I don't know why or what compelled me, but eventually I just quietly sat in the passenger seat and stared emptily out the window as we departed. I didn't register much of the drive. I do know the fibers were getting intolerably annoying, replenishing themselves within minutes of being brushed off. And they were getting irritating too, like insects crawling up and out of my skin. Like I was an anthill, and they were the ants. I started scratching myself, and it just made it worse. It started to burn. "Don't do that," she said, giving me this wry, owl-esque, cocked head stare, like she knew something I didn't. And I admit I was too scared to ask what the hell she meant, what she knew. I wanted to ask before it was too late, but as we drove past the edge of town, I realized too late had come and gone. So I just pushed that dark, unsettling cold down and sunk into my seat. The trail was fairly close by now. Out in the lush coniferous forests that ran up the mountainside, on an old dirt back road just off the main highway, was a little pullout giving way to an unmarked trail. She parked here and, in a smooth and inhuman movement, turned her head to me with the biggest smile I'd ever seen on her lips. Huge, hungry, unnatural. My breath quickened, my palms grew clammy, the fibers sticking to me. What is this?" I stammered. Keeping that beautiful, frightening grin, she said in the most golden voice I've ever heard, "We're going hiking, silly." I felt sick, like I could launch my lunch at any moment. She scuttled out of the car in that just animalistic way, hands pressed to the side as she ran around in glee to open my door. As it swung out, she dropped into this all-fours stance, dug her fingers into the pine-crusted dirt, and slowly stood tall, letting the dirt fall through her fingers and onto her face. "You are freaking me the fuck out," I snapped. And usually snapping at her, which is rare for us, is enough to make her cry. But she just smiled, and smiled, and smiled. "Grab your hiking pole, silly," she said, dancing away. "No," I cried. "This ends now. I'm going home, and you can come with me or not, I don't care at this point. I need to get to a doctor, and so do you." And her dancing stopped immediately. She spun on her heel, standing on but one leg, and leaned forward with a sly, starving smirk. "You always say something like that. It never works. Ice. I felt ice right through my heart, trickling down my veins to the pit of my stomach. I scowled and rushed to the driver's side, where I punched the ignition, determined to get the hell out. The car did not respond. I hit it again, and the car simply sat quietly, as if it had been told to do so. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted her, leaning in with that look. "See?" she said. I was sweating now, so badly it was getting in my eyes, and in the beads were little red threads. I wiped them away, smearing more from my palms on my face. My breathing grew shaky, and I just wanted to go home. I wanted to go home so badly. And like I said, it's like she can read my mind, like she's in my mind. I could feel her inside, reading, watching, poking, prodding, as she said, "We'll go home soon. But first, we should go see the lake." I let out the most pathetic, fearful whimper I've ever given. My knuckles were white around the steering wheel. My teeth clenched and ground to the point of squeaking. I even felt a tear leak out. I had never been so freaked in my life. All the while she was there, smiling at me, leaning in so close that I could smell her sweet breath. Through quivering lips, I managed to push out, "You promise? You promise we'll go home?" And she leaned further in, so close I could almost hear her heartbeat. Both of them. And she said, "As always, if you come with me, I promise." "Oh God," I whispered. And she did the weirdest thing now, leaning up to my cheek and licking away a tear as it crept down my face. This wasn't my girlfriend. Or maybe it was? Was or not, this was a predator. I've never felt like prey in my life before this, but now I understood. I took a deep, painful breath, licked my cracking lips, and nodded silently. "Good," she whispered. She took my hand and pulled me out of the car. Neglecting all of our supplies, she pulled me into the forest as the night began to fall. Not once did she let go of me, nor would she let me let go. Her grip was iron, forceful, and demanding. In a way, it brought me a sick sense of safety in those dark moonlit woods. If there were any other predators out here, I did not feel afraid of them, for there was a much more serious predator holding my mind, casting twisted smiles back at me, singing, chanting in a ghostly tune without a care in the world. It took maybe 15 minutes of walking before we hit the lake. Small, nestled in the pines, soaking up the reflected moonlight on its still, black waters, it felt profoundly out of place. Just laying eyes on it gave me this wrong feeling, a sensation of unbelonging, a rare emotion I'd never felt before that seemed to blend unease, familiarity, and fear and warmth, all at once. It was silent here. No insects, no bird, no wind, just me and her, and the threads that fell off me like red snow. Looking around, I saw something else. 2 stones sitting upright at the edge of the lake, uncannily prominent. My girlfriend skipped and danced over to them, motioning me to follow with elegant fingers. And so I did. The writing on the stones was runic and old. They'd had to have been there for quite some time, though one was far older than the other. In the pale moonlight, they seemed honorable, venerated, ghostly. "What are these?" I asked in a whisper. "These are for you," she said. I paled. "What are you talking about?" And she just tisked and said, "It's part of the deal." I shot her a glare. "What deal?" "The one you made the day you died, silly," she said. "You wanted to live. Forever, like me. Your thread is mine, will always be mine. And so it goes." My heart dropped. Before I could even ask what she meant, she grabbed my hand and held my palm out. There, dead center, was a small red thread that seemed to come from within my hand. It stuck up like a hair, waiting to be plucked. She pinched it with her forefinger and thumb, and to my horror, began to pull it out. Like sinew it came out, hot and stringy. It never stopped, never broke, just unspooled on and on and on. And as it did, I felt weaker, more fragile, hollow, weightless. My breathing stopped. So did my heart. It was as though I'd lost the need for both. She pulled and pulled and pulled, dancing around the lake as she did so. The red thread danced with her, seeming to respond to her chanting, her glee. The longer it grew, the weaker I felt, and the more it unspooled, the larger the deer antlers on her head grew. Soon they were massive and proud, strong and commanding, and woven between them like a spider's web was red, sinewy thread. She danced around and around as I fell to my knees, the shore of the lake lapping at me lovingly, hungrily. She pulled and pulled and pulled until I collapsed on the ground and stared emptily at the moon. My vision darkened, my emotions faded, and my senses dulled. Everything blackened. The sounds of her chanting, the light of the moon, the cold of the forest, all evaporated. And the last thing I saw that night was her, standing over me, looking down with that wide, otherworldly smile, her massive antlers framing the moon perfectly. I wondered if I'd seen this before, twice now, if I'd see it a fourth time, and a fifth. I couldn't remember how I'd gotten here, or when, but I finally understood why. With a whispered thought, I called out to remember, and I fell into the void. I'm sure this all sounds insane, but I, at least, am pleased to say that I did wake up in my own bed the next morning. Beside me slept my girlfriend, unhorned and peaceful. It took me a second to register where I was, but when I did, I shot up, breathed heavily, and looked around as if I'd never seen my own room before. She stirred at this and sat up with a sleepy smile, a normal smile, and she said, "Babe, you okay?" I just stared at her. For the longest time, I just silently stared. She seemed uncomfortable, shrinking under my gaze. "Babe?" Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. "Weird dreams is all." But that was a lie. I hadn't dreamt that night, and I knew that whatever the hell that was at the lake, that was no dream. I don't think she thinks I remember, but I do. The rest of the day was normal. We got coffee, talked, cuddled at night, and the whole time I just pretended to not know, pushed it all away. I'm scared of her, of whatever she is. But I think I'm tied to her in ways I might never understand. She isn't human though, that's for sure. That night I had a dream I was at the lake again. Only I was here alone, wandering, remembering. And this time there were 3 headstones. The oldest, the second, and the new one. After breakfast the next morning, I slipped away to the bathroom. There I searched for the meaning of Effinleer. Turns out it means everlasting, eternal. The day was edging toward dusk, the sun casting long shadows across the backyard. I remember the cicadas' hum filling the air, marking the middle of summer, a relentless reminder of what should have been carefree days. I am posting this because I need help, and someone else might have a way to right my own wrong. 17 is a treacherous time, and all aspects of my life have been disrupted, eroded from stone to reveal my one focus, the dog. I hope that by sharing my story, others can offer advice, or at least understand this bizarre ordeal. The dog. Killing this dog is my only priority. While they say all dogs go to heaven, I disagree. This creature is no angel in the eyes of any god. It stands there, eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence, a shadow of menace clinging to its very presence. What was once a loving companion has been twisted into something sinister, a devilish specter haunting the edge of my vision, something more beast than pet now. Before suggesting a gun, please know that I have already gone this route. It led me to this place. About a month and a half ago, my dog passed. A summer's day with a storm on the horizon was his death day, and a car was the chariot of his demise. It had been 5:42 p.m. The woman who drove the car had a watch, a black car. Running over the fence, I had seen my companion lying panting, his breath huffing, and his eyes glazed. Misery painted his face, and it was hurting us both like fire. You ought to put him out of that misery. Be a man. It was the woman who gave me that gun. Stupid, downright fucking stupid to take a gun from a stranger. Of all the world's charades, it simply sounds like a lapse in judgment. I'm telling you it wasn't, though. No amount of pacing can allow me to recall the gun itself, or my decision to take it, least of all the woman. Black car, black hair, soft voice. The rest is gone. A memory that aged by only a month and somehow feels like a recollection of my toddler years. The only clarity in my head was the ringing in my ears as the gun fired. You ought to put him out of that misery. Be a man. When I turned to give the gun to the woman, the gun that I swore rested heavily in my hands, and she was gone. Then, as if time itself split, the gun too was gone. After that, I sat on the porch, staring, trying to get the courage to start digging, to honor Ringo, my dog, by burying him properly. If only I had been a man. Nobody believes me here. Not the woman, the car, or the dog. Especially not when my dog got up and walked off, with a hole in his head, eyes crossed and glassy, and walking perfectly like some wolf down over a mountain pass. I ain't ever believed in the devil, but when I saw that no-good monster walk off, I swear nothing in the world felt like that. It's a type of feeling that would have me going to church every day to pray away this twisted thing. Maybe I should have stopped that son of a bitch at the time, but my legs were tangled with fear, and my brain was a rabbit ready to run. I hauled ass to bed that night and wondered if a fever or drug had addled my brain to dust. I told myself that come morning, Ringo's body would be lying in the yard. At breakfast, Ma asked me where the dog was. On her early run, she hadn't seen him inside or out in the grass of the yard. Avoiding all the windows hadn't done me any good. Ma had delivered my worst nightmare with a side of bacon and eggs. Even worse, I didn't have the heart to tell her I shot him. Yeah, last night he ran off. By the end of the next day, I had convinced myself that a predator must have dragged the body away. Never mind that Ringo was a big old dog. My hope was that something much bigger had come along and relieved me of the burden. A week later, I was emptying out the trash behind the house when I slipped on something. The hazel, bloodied hair of a girl. Layla. She had been in my class. God only knows how much I screamed before the police showed up. One of them said she was bitten all over, mauled and torn, missing one of her sneakers. A chalky-eyed medic had told me that all my screaming would tear my vocal cords. Ma had tried to get me to shush. In the end, they gave me something sweet and warm through the barrel of a needle that lifted me into cloudy skies. When I woke up, they asked me questions through the wazoo. I didn't know Jack. Then Ma took me home. Tired to the bones, I still couldn't sleep, and when Ma had dozed off, I snuck outside to sit on the porch. It was nice, crickets chirping and fireflies darting. I was about to go inside, muscles tensed to stand, when everything stopped. No sounds. Like the world was paused. Crickets stopped chirping, and owls shut their beaks. I couldn't even see a single firefly. Our porch light is plenty bright. I was seconds away from bolting or crying when I saw them. Eyes, yellow eyes. Ringo stalked into the circle of light, and I swear to the sweet Lord above that my heart started beating backwards. Goosebumps and sweat were all I could manage. He stopped only a few feet from the steps. Fur caked in blood, he held himself the way a wolf would. Now I ain't ever seen a damn wolf, but I sure as hell watched some Discovery Channel. Ringo used to loll about, but this Ringo was different. He was a real hunter, I could see it in his eyes. And when his mouth opened and he dropped a grizzled shoe on the ground, I knew he had been out hunting as well. I barely made it to the side of the railing before vomit spewed out of my mouth. And when I turned, Ringo was gone. His delivery was still sitting a few feet from the steps. My cries and wails were loud enough to wake Ma. We ended up going to the police station that night for the second time. Not a soul believed my story. Not Ma, not the sheriff, not even animal control. Said that Ringo must have died, and I was going through a tough time. Gave me meds to make me sleep. When Ma finally managed to wrangle me out of that station, she made me sit in the back seat of the car. She thinks I didn't notice her engage the child lock, but I did. I was all out of crying by the week's end. My brain was fuzzy from all the meds, and a part of me was slowly coming to the realization that it was possible I had imagined all of it. Had Layla been a traumatic thing for me, right? Be a man. Echoed in my brain persistently, despite the medication's interference. The entire world felt distorted through the panes of glass covering my mind. But glass begins to crack and shatter when hard storms hit, and Ringo didn't seem intent on waiting until hurricane season. The mailman ended up dead in our street a week after that. He was barely recognizable. All night long, I could hear him howling in the woods. I needed to kill that dog. Mixing my sleeping meds into Ma's tea was the first step. I knew if she thought I was planning anything, I would be whisked away to the loony bin in a heartbeat. No, this had to be perfect. Before my grandfather died, he had kept a pistol. Ma kept all his old stuff tucked away in the dirt of the garage. When I retrieve the gun from the dusty box where it lays, I take a moment to study its features. The weapon itself is heavy, and a metallic scent wafts from it. In my hands, it feels cold as death. I've only shot a gun once with my grandfather. Ma hadn't been happy about him taking me shooting, so I never got the chance again. I just have to hope that Ringo is a big enough target, and that luck is on my side. I wait. Bullets were loaded on the rickety porch. A boy is planning on shooting his dog. Maybe a dog is planning on killing his boy. The howl was all the warning I got before I whirled at the figure stalking towards me. Ringo dropped to the ground dead, skull riddled with bullets. I put my head down. I took a deep breath. I looked up. He's gone. I heard something running towards me. Then my chest exploded with stinging fire. The world was fields of pain among roses of agony. Nerves splitting at the seams like stitches in a dress, I cried out. My fingers gripped and clawed at the dirt. I became an animal of only primal instinct. Escape, run, hide. Why had I ever thought I was more powerful than the monster? In science class, once a kid had told me that breaking a rib feels like hell. I can tell you he wasn't lying. Bone, pressing against the soft fibers of my lungs as I repeatedly attempted to inhale, was omnipresent. Hot breath from the hellhound Ringo had made the hairs on my neck stand to attention. A cold tongue met my face and neck as the beast began to lap at me. A childish part of my being was tickled by such a gesture. Infant and puppy in nature, something a younger dog would have done. But Ringo isn't young. He's dusty with age and death, infected with something I can never hope to explain. When I look back, all I can tell you is what I saw and heard. Feelings that were brought about through my own eyes. God only knows if my lens isn't distorted, if the camera itself isn't warped. It all felt so unfair. When I lay on the ground, believing I was going to die, I hated that dog. It wasn't my dog, I had known that, but now it felt true. My trusted friend had attacked me. With malice. Hate. A dog can't feel true hate. The dog will kill the squirrel because it is a dog. Not because he hates the squirrel, wanting it to suffer, to be afraid. This Ringo wanted me to suffer, to toy with me like a bird caught in a trap. Life is funny. Even while my rib shimmies into my lung and my dead dog licks my neck, I still ended up falling asleep. I finally managed to wake up just for a second. The woman who gave me the gun is standing above me. Then she isn't. Distantly, sirens wail. A specter. A ghoul. Who fucking cares? The hospital truly enjoys dishing out meds, apparently. They give me lots of meds. I imagine if they brought all the bottles into the room with me, They would be stacked up to the ceiling. They could all be lined up like strange poles and sandcastles along the hospital ward wall. When I walk around, I have to tiptoe through them like a garden maze. A maze where every few steps there's a little white label with a medicine. Above that will be rows and rows of my name, knocking them down as all the little white pebbles spill out of them, pills on pills. A soft, middle-aged woman is in charge of making sure I swallow all the pills. If I don't, or refuse, they put it in the IV. Yanking the IV out doesn't get me a lot of good graces. The first time I had actually attempted an escape. I was apprehended in about 30 seconds and spent the rest of the week woozy from sedatives. Not only does it hurt, but I lose my mobility, privilege. That's what they call being unrestrained. Dr. Shepard says that being allowed to walk around freely in my room is something I need to earn. Never even raises her voice, not even when I yell at her. She's a real gentle parent about this shit. I even have my own traffic light card next to the door, like a damn toddler. Shepard also makes me journal every single day. I'm sometimes supposed to draw Ringo to help me cope. Then I'm supposed to draw Ma. They sent me here after Ma died. That's what made me give up. According to the police chief, I had been attacked by a robber. This robber had unknowingly let me live, then went upstairs and killed Ma in her sleep. Sometimes I wonder if I had skipped the sleeping pills, would she have woken up? Doesn't matter. My list of guilts will always include it, heavy like a rock. When I first woke up in the ICU, they told me she had died. At first, it felt like a tornado was running through me, breaking things, destroying, capsizing. A lot of screaming had been done on my part. My vocal cords had hurt like a bitch, and for a whole month after, I could barely utter a word. But now, I'm almost empty. Almost. Walking around my room in circles has become my only pastime. Do they count such a thing as a hobby? You're probably wondering how I found my way onto the internet, being that I'm such a head case. Well, about a week ago, they decided I was trustworthy enough to have free time outside my room. After a little exploring, I found this computer lab. All 4 computers are bolted down as if they might float away. So, I only have a few times a week when I can write this. Free time only lasts about an hour. I don't matter. The doctors here are nice to me. Dr. Shepard thinks that I had some kind of terrible mental break when my dog died, and the nurses pity me. It's not too bad. But what does matter is Ringo. If you see the woman, don't take the gun. And if you can, kill that fucking dog. Credit